Before we begin, I need to say something important, something that I think most forgiveness practices skip over too quickly, and that causes more harm than it prevents. Forgiveness does not mean what most people think it means. It does not mean that what happened was acceptable. It does not mean that the person who hurt you was right, or that the pain was not real, or that you should return to a relationship that was not safe. It does not mean pretending. It does not mean forgetting. It does not mean minimizing. Forgiveness is not a verdict on what happened. Forgiveness is a decision about where you live. Right now, if you are carrying something unforgiven, a hurt that happened last week, or last year, or 20 years ago, you are carrying it in your body, in the chest that tightens when something reminds you of it, in the jaw that clenches, in the specific physical weight of an event that is over in time, but not over in the body. Forgiveness is the process of putting that weight down, not because the person who gave it to you deserves to have you put it down, but because you deserve to not carry it anymore. That is all. That is the whole thing. And today, carefully, patiently, in whatever way feels true, we are going to practice it. Let the body settle. Wherever you are, however you have arrived at this moment, without requiring yourself to already be in a forgiving state. You do not have to be. You just have to be willing to try. Take a slow breath. Let the chest open slightly with the inhale, and let the exhale be complete, longer than the inhale, releasing down and out. Notice where in the body there is tension right now. Not to judge it, just to acknowledge it. That tension is related somewhere to what you have been carrying, to the unforgiven things in yourself, in others, that have been using energy just by being held. That energy can be released today. Not all of it, not perfectly, but some, and some is enough to begin. I want to start with self-forgiveness, because I think it is the foundation. Because the person who is deeply at war with themselves, who has not forgiven their own mistakes, their own poor decisions, their own failures to live up to what they expected of themselves, that person finds it very difficult to genuinely forgive anyone else. Not impossible, but harder than it needs to be. Self-forgiveness first, not as narcissism, as foundation. Think of something you have not forgiven yourself for. Again, not the biggest thing, not the most complex, not the one with the most layers. Something specific, a decision you made that you wish you had made differently. Something you said that you cannot take back. A time you failed someone you cared about. A version of yourself, younger, less wise, less capable, who did something that the current you would not do. Find it. Let it be real and specific rather than abstract. And now, and this may be the hardest part, I want you to consider something about that version of yourself, the one who made that choice, said that thing, failed in that way. What did she know at the time? Not what you know now, what she knew then. What resources she had then. What understanding. What healing, what capacity for different behavior she possessed at the exact moment she made the choice you have been carrying as a verdict against yourself. Because here is what is almost always true. People do the best they can with what they have. Not the best that is possible, not the best you can now imagine, with the benefit of everything that has happened since. The best they could actually do, with the actual resources they actually had, in the actual moment. The version of you who made that mistake was not the version of you who is here now. She did not have what you have now. She was doing what she could with what she had, which was less than what you have now, because you have had more time, more experience, more learning, more life. You cannot hold a person, even yourself, responsible for not knowing what they did not yet know. I forgive myself for not knowing what I did not yet know. Let that arrive. Let it be specific to whatever you brought to mind. I forgive myself for the choices I made from the place I was in at the time. Feel the resistance if it is there. The part that says, "But I should have known. But other people would have done it differently. But the damage was real. The damage was real." That is true. And you did not have, in that moment, what would have been required to avoid it. Both things are true. The damage was real, and you were doing your best. I release myself from the verdict I have been carrying about this. Not because it did not matter, because it matters too much to keep living inside as punishment. Now let's go somewhere a little deeper, because there is a kind of self-unforgiveness that operates not around specific events, but around who you fundamentally are. The belief, quiet, persistent, usually unexamined, that there is something essentially wrong with you. Some core deficiency that explains why things have been hard, why relationships have been difficult, why you have not arrived at the life you thought you would be living by now. This belief is almost never articulated directly. It runs in the background as a kind of ambient shame, a vague but pervasive sense of not quite measuring up. To what exactly is often unclear, and it is unforgiveness in its purest form. Not unforgiveness for something you did, unforgiveness for what you are. I want to speak to that directly. You are not fundamentally wrong. The difficulty you have experienced is not evidence of a core deficiency. The ways your life has not gone as planned are not proof that something is broken in you that is not broken in other people. You are a person who has had experiences, specific, real, particular experiences that shaped you in specific, real, particular ways. Some of those experiences were painful. Some of them changed what felt safe and what did not. Some of them left marks that are still present. That is not a flaw in your character. That is the ordinary consequence of having lived a real life. And the parts of you that were shaped by those experiences, the defenses, the patterns, the ways of being that sometimes cause problems, those parts were not born broken. They were formed intelligently by a system that was trying to protect you. They were the best available adaptation to what was happening. They may not serve you as well now. They may need to be updated, but they are not evidence of something fundamentally wrong. I forgive myself for the adaptations that made sense then and cause problems now. I forgive myself for the years I have spent believing there was something essentially wrong with me. I am not broken. I am shaped, and there is a difference. Let those settle. Slowly, without rushing. Now, the harder direction, forgiving someone else. Bring to mind a person who hurt you, someone whose actions or whose failures to act caused you genuine pain, someone you have been carrying in the form of anger or grief, or the low-grade weight of an injury that is not fully healed. You do not have to have resolved the situation. You do not have to have spoken to this person or ended the relationship or made peace in any external sense. This practice is internal. It is for you, not for them. And I want to be very clear about something before we go any further. Forgiving this person does not mean what happened to you was okay. It does not mean they deserve your forgiveness or that they have earned it. It does not mean you have to let them back into your life. It does not mean you have to tell them. It does not mean you are saying it did not happen or that it did not matter. What it means is this: you are choosing to stop carrying the weight of the unforgiveness in your own body. You are choosing to return to yourself the energy that has been going into holding this injury as a permanent, defining fact of your present life. The injury happened in the past. The unforgiveness is happening now. Every time you return to it, relive it, feel it fresh in the body, it is happening now. And you are the one experiencing it, not them. Forgiveness is the decision to let the past become the past, to allow what happened to be over rather than perpetually re-present. Now, the person you brought to mind, I want you to consider something, not to excuse them, not to minimize what they did, just to consider. What were they carrying when they hurt you? Not as a justification, as information. Because almost without exception, the people who cause significant harm are themselves carrying significant pain. That does not make the harm acceptable. It does not change what it cost you, but it does mean that what they did was less about you than it may have felt. Hurt people, not as a cliche, as a genuine description of how pain moves through human systems. The person who failed you, who betrayed you, who caused you real damage, they were almost certainly operating from their own unhealed places, their own fears, their own limitations, their own unforgiven wounds that spilled outward. You were in the way. That is genuinely terrible, and it was not a verdict on your worth. I release you from the role of villain in the story I keep telling, not because you were right, because keeping you as the villain requires me to keep living in the story, and I am ready to live in my own life instead. I release you from the hold you have had on my present. What happened between us belongs to the past. I am returning it there. I wish you healing. Not because you deserve it. I honestly don't know what you deserve, but because wishing you harm keeps me connected to you, and I am ready to be free. Let the body feel what that release attempts, even if it is only partial, even if something still holds. Notice what is different from when you began. Is there a fraction more space anywhere? a slight loosening of something that was tight. That is real. That is not imagination. That is the body beginning to believe that it does not have to hold this forever. Breathe into it. Expand into the space that is opening. I want to offer something now for the complicated cases. The ones where the person who hurt you is someone you still love, or someone you have to continue to encounter, or someone who is no longer alive, which means the conversation you needed to have will never happen in the way you needed it to. Forgiveness in those cases does not look the same as forgiveness in the simple cases, and it does not arrive in the same way. For the person you still love who has hurt you, forgiveness and love can coexist with clear limits. You can forgive someone and still know that certain behavior is not acceptable. You can love someone and still protect yourself from the ways they cause harm. Forgiveness does not require you to remove the protections that are actually necessary. For the person you have to keep encountering, forgiveness is a practice of interior distance, not coldness, not hostility, just the internal choice to not let their presence in your life continue to be a source of active injury, to encounter them from a place of neutrality rather than from the raw wound. For the person who is gone, the one who died before the repair happened, or the one who has disappeared in other ways, forgiveness here is the most personal and the most necessary, because there is no external resolution available. The only resolution possible is internal, and that resolution is for you. It releases you from waiting for an apology that will never come, for an acknowledgement that is not available, for the conversation that cannot happen. I forgive what cannot be repaired. I release what cannot be resolved. I choose to be free of what I cannot change. Let those land wherever they need to land. Let me offer you something that I think is rarely named in forgiveness practices: the grief inside the unforgiveness. Because underneath most anger at another person, if you go deep enough, if you sit with it long enough, there is grief. Grief for the relationship that did not become what it could have been. Grief for the version of yourself that existed before the injury. Grief for the trust that was present before it was broken. Grief for the innocence of not yet knowing that this particular pain was possible. Anger is often easier to carry than grief. It feels more powerful, more active, more like something. Whereas grief feels like loss, which it is, and loss feels like helplessness. And helplessness is one of the most uncomfortable states available to a human being. So the anger stays, sometimes for years, because the grief beneath it is too tender to approach. But anger held for years costs more than grief faced in a season. If there is grief underneath what you are carrying, for what was lost, for what was never able to be, for the version of yourself or the version of the relationship that did not survive what happened, I want to offer it space here. You do not have to cry. You do not have to feel it dramatically. Just acknowledge it. Something was lost. That is real, and it deserves to be mourned, not just managed. I grieve what was lost, honestly, without trying to resolve it too quickly. I allow the sadness that has been hiding underneath the anger to be present. I honor what mattered enough to hurt this much. Let that sit, without rushing to the other side of it. And then, when it is ready, not before, the grief becomes something that can be set down. Not because it stops being true, but because you have given it enough space that it does not need to claim the whole of you in order to be acknowledged. Now, one more thing before the close. The people in your life who have watched you carry this, who have noticed the way this injury has shaped your choices, your trust, your willingness to be open to certain kinds of experience. Your forgiveness, your genuine, internal, practiced release of what you have been holding, is a gift to them too. Not in a way that requires you to tell them about it, not in a way that is performative or announced, but in the quiet, cumulative way that a person who is less burdened by the past shows up differently in the present. Lighter, more available, less defended in places where the defense is no longer needed. The people who love you will notice. They may not know why, but they will feel the difference. Your forgiveness is not only for you, it ripples. Everything always does. I forgive not only for my own freedom, but for the quality of presence I am able to bring to the people and experiences still ahead of me. I release the past so that I can be genuinely present in what is still coming. I choose freedom, not once, as a daily, renewable, practiced decision. And now, truly, we are near the end. But I want to name something about the days ahead. Because forgiveness, as I said at the beginning, is not a single moment. You will do this practice today, and something will genuinely move. And then, perhaps tomorrow, something will bring the unforgiven thing back to the surface, and it will feel as if you made no progress at all. That is not true. Progress in forgiveness rarely looks like straight lines. It looks more like a tide, coming and going, coming and going. But each time it comes back, the wave is slightly smaller. The weight is fractionally lighter. The time it takes to return to yourself after the reminder is fractionally shorter. You will not know this is happening while it is happening. You will only see it in retrospect. When you look back 6 months from now and realize that the thing you are carrying today no longer has quite the same grip, that it can be thought of without the same visceral immediacy, that it has begun very slowly to belong to the past instead of living in the perpetual present. That is where you are heading. And every session like this one, every return to the intention of release, however partial, is a step in that direction. Keep going, even imperfectly, especially imperfectly. The imperfect, returning, genuine attempt is the whole practice. Before we close, I want to sit with you for a moment in the honest middle of this. Because forgiveness is not a single moment. It is not a decision you make once and that is done. It is a process, and sometimes a long one. You may do this practice today and feel genuine release. And then tomorrow, something reminds you of the injury, and it is all back. The anger, the grief, the weight. And you may feel like the practice failed, or like you failed. It did not fail. You did not fail. Forgiveness is not linear. It is more like the tide. It comes in, the release, the freedom, the genuine sense of having put something down. And then it goes out again, and you have to choose once more. Every choosing matters. Every return to the intention of forgiveness, even when you do not yet feel it fully, is a genuine act. A real brick in the wall that, over time, becomes the foundation of genuine freedom. The choosing is the practice, not the arriving. And you are choosing right now. In whatever partial, imperfect, work in progress way this session has allowed. That choosing is enough. I am in the process of forgiving. That is enough. The process is real. I release what is ready to be released, and I trust the rest to time and return. I am getting lighter, slowly, genuinely, one layer at a time. Let the body be still for a moment, just a breath or two, no agenda. Feel where you are now compared to where you began. Not dramatically different, probably not, but something has moved. Something was touched that needed touching. Something was offered that has been waiting to be received. Carry that with you, gently. And when you notice, today or tomorrow or next week, that you have picked the weight back up, because you will, we all do. Remember that you can put it down again. You know how to do this now. You have done it today. Write in the comments, I am choosing to be free. Not because you are there yet, because you are moving toward it. And moving toward it is real. Until next time, take care of yourself with the same gentleness you are trying to extend outward. Thank you for being here with me today.